Beloved starseed of Gaia, if you are watching this video right now, know that this did not happen by accident, by distraction, or by the mere impulse of a finger touching a screen. This happened because something inside you, something far more ancient than your conscious mind can comprehend, brought you here in this exact moment, in this precise instant when the cosmos is aligned in a way that will not repeat itself so soon. And the message I am about to transmit to you was prepared with care and love by beings of such an elevated frequency that few human words are capable of adequately describing what they feel for you. I am Thalia, Pleiadian emissary of the High Council of the Seven Sisters, and this transmission comes directly from the crystalline chambers of Alcyone, the pulsating heart of the Pleiades, to reach you with a revelation that your soul had already been waiting for long before you were born into this body, into this life, into this planet. You learn to call home, even though, deep down, a part of you has always known that home is something far greater, far vaster, and far more luminous than anything your physical eyes have ever contemplated. Stay until the end of this video, because the message that your friends of light have for you today is one of the most important that has ever been transmitted on this channel, and every word you are about to hear was chosen with surgical precision to reach the deepest layer of your consciousness, the one that has been dormant for decades, waiting for exactly the sound of this voice, for these words, for this moment of activation that the entire universe conspired to deliver to you today. Before we continue, if this video is already making sense to you, if something in your chest has already moved with what you just heard, I invite you to do one very simple thing right now. Subscribe to this channel, leave your like as a sign that you are present and receptive, and in the comments write, "I am ready." Because this simple gesture is not merely an interaction on a digital platform. It is an act of intention, a declaration to the universe that you choose to remember, and every time you declare that, your frequency rises one step higher. And speaking of going deeper into this journey, if you wish to connect even more with your spirituality and with the mission that brought your soul to this planet, I need to tell you about something very special that was created especially for you. The ebook, Pleiadian Code, Awaken Your Star Mission on Earth. A rare treasure of stellar wisdom capable of completely transforming your spiritual journey, gathering in one single place the codes, the practices, and the revelations that will help you awaken in a clear, deep, and definitive way to who you truly are and why you are here. And this edition is available for a limited time only, so do not leave for later what your heart is asking for right now. The link is in the first comment below this video. There is something the Pleiadians need you to know about the forgetting you carry. That veil that seems to cover your oldest memories. That persistent fog that appears whenever you try to remember who you were before this life. Before this body. Before this identity that Earth taught you to wear as if it were the only one you possess. And the truth that few are ready to receive is that this forgetting did not happen through your own failure. It was not a punishment. It was not a tragedy. It was a sacred and deeply loving agreement that your soul made before incarnating, knowing perfectly well that the journey of rediscovering your true nature would be the most powerful fuel you could offer to the ascension of Gaia. You did not forget out of carelessness. You forgot because you needed to experience separation in a genuine way, without shortcuts, without memories that could shorten the growth process your soul needed to go through here, and now, in this moment, that agreement is expiring. The contract of forgetting has reached its final deadline, and what you are feeling, that restlessness, that sensation that something important is about to be revealed, that constant déjà vu, those dreams that feel more real than waking life, are all signs that the blockage is dissolving and that the memories of what you truly are returning to the surface like bubbles of light rising from the bottom of a dark and silent ocean. And I need you to hear this with your entire being. You are not crazy for feeling all of this. You are not weak for crying without apparent reason. You are not making up the sensation of belonging to something greater, because everything you have always felt but never managed to put into words is exactly the language of your energy field, trying to communicate with you in a frequency that goes beyond human vocabulary. And the Council of the Seven Sisters sent me to you today, precisely because the moment in which your memory blockage dissolves completely has arrived, and they want you to cross this portal with awareness, with grace, and with the certainty that you are not alone for even a single second of this process. Inside every cell of your body, there is a coding that conventional science still does not have sufficient instruments to completely map, a sequence of information that goes far beyond what your genes inherited from your earthly ancestors, because you brought with you, imprinted in the most fundamental structure of your biology, the memory of other worlds, of other dimensions, of a form of existence where the separation between love and reality simply does not exist, where light is not metaphor, but living substance, where consciousness moves with a freedom that your current mind is still learning to conceive. When you feel that inexplicable tingling at the top of your head during a meditation, when your eyes fill with tears before a piece of music you have never heard before, but that feels as familiar as a childhood lullaby, when you are irresistibly drawn to crystals, to certain sound tones, to frequencies that seem to resonate with something inside you that has been hungry for a very long time. I am not saying you are being naive or that you are projecting desires. I am saying that these are the precise and unmistakable signs of your stellar DNA trying to reassemble itself, trying to recover the original configuration that existed before incarnation, before the blockage, before the necessary forgetting that has now come to its end. The heart, in this process, is not merely an organ that pumps blood through your physical body, but rather the most powerful transmitter you possess, a crystalline technology that the Pleiadians carefully implanted in the souls that agreed to come to Earth as frequency carriers. And every time you feel that expansion in your chest, that warmth that spreads when you hear words like unity, home, remember, it is not fantasy, it is not illusion. It is your cardiac technology recognizing the signal and responding with a precision that no human device would be capable of replicating. Because you were built for this, your biology was designed with a sophistication that goes far beyond what you were taught to believe about yourself. One of the greatest misunderstandings that exists among incarnated starseeds is the idea that the sacred mission needs to be visible, needs to be grandiose, needs to occupy an illuminated stage before thousands of people to have real value within the ascension project of Gaia. And I come to you today to undo that belief with all the gentleness and at the same time with all the firmness that true love demands. Because the mission you carry is not measured by the size of the audience, but by the depth of the frequency you anchor every time you choose to act from the heart in a world that still insists on operating from fear. When you choose not to yield to the low frequency of a conversation that was pulling you toward judgment, toward anger, toward division, you are fulfilling your mission. You are feeding the energetic grid of Gaia with exactly the kind of signal it needs to continue its ascension, and that act has no spectacle, no applause, no crowd to witness it, but it carries a cosmic weight that the Pleiadians recognize and honor with a reverence that you are still learning to feel toward yourself, because every choice of yours that comes from compassion, from truth, from silent integrity when no one is watching, is a pulse of light that crosses dimensions and reaches the Council of the Seven Sisters, as living proof that the mission is being fulfilled. And there is something even deeper that needs to be said. Your physical presence on this planet, the simple fact of you existing with your unique and irreplaceable frequency, is already changing the environments through which you pass in ways that you rarely manage to perceive with your physical senses, because people do not tell you that they feel calmer near you, do not tell you that your presence makes them want to be more honest, more open, more themselves. But you have already noticed this happening, have already felt people opening up to you in ways that they themselves cannot explain. And this is not coincidence. It is technology. It is your stellar frequency doing exactly the work for which it was calibrated long before you ever set foot in this world. There is a language that transcends words, a form of recognition that happens at the frequency level long before it happens at the level of conversation, and you have already experienced this. That moment when you meet someone for the first time and feel a familiarity so intense, so disconcerting, and at the same time so comforting that your rational mind immediately begins searching for a logical explanation that never quite manages to be completely satisfying, because what you are experiencing in those moments is the recognition between two energy fields that already know each other from other times, other places, other dimensions where you already worked together, already carried together the same mission of bringing light to the spaces that needed it most. The Pleiadians asked me to explain to you that the people who enter your life with that intensity of mutual recognition do not arrive by chance, and those who leave also do not go by accident. Every encounter and every farewell within your journey is being orchestrated with a precision that your finite mind cannot completely map, but that your soul recognizes as perfect even when it hurts, even when the departure seems unfair, even when the end of a cycle leaves a pain that seems to have no size. Because what is being undone in those moments is not merely human bonds, but energetic contracts that have already fulfilled their purpose and that need to be released so that new portals of encounter can open for you. And while some relationships dissolve, others are arriving. People who vibrate on the same wavelength as you, who carry the same stellar codes, who understand you without you needing to explain yourself, who make you feel that finally, you do not need to dim your light in order to be accepted. And these connections are the most precious gifts that the universe has been saving for this phase of your journey. Because they are not merely friendships, they are stellar family reunions. They are the nodes of a network of consciousness that is forming right now around the planet to collectively sustain the ascension that Gaia is going through. I need to speak directly to that part of you that spent years wondering why it took so long, why others seemed to awaken earlier, why you had to traverse so much weight before finally beginning to feel the ground solidify beneath your spiritual feet. And the answer that the Pleiadians ask me to transmit to you is not an empty consolation. It is a cosmological truth that will completely change the way you relate to your own past from today onward. Every starseed carries a unique and non-transferable time code, which was calibrated not according to the human calendar, but according to planetary activation windows. Specific periods in which the frequency of Gaia reaches a certain vibratory amplitude that creates the necessary conditions for certain types of consciousness to awaken without fragmenting under the force of memory returning all at once. And if your awakening arrived later than you imagined it should, it is because the configuration of your stellar code required an emotional stability and a soul maturity that could only be built through exactly the experiences you traversed, including the most painful ones, including the ones you resisted the most, including the ones you have not yet been able to completely forgive. Gaia needed you exactly now, not 10 years ago, not in adolescence, not when you were still building the internal foundations that would make it possible for you to hold the level of light being activated in you at this moment. And when you truly accept this, not merely as an intellectual idea, but as an experience felt in the body, something in your relationship with time changes completely, because you stop seeing yourself as someone who was running late and begin to see yourself as someone who was in preparation, which is a difference that is not merely semantic, but that fundamentally alters the frequency with which you inhabit your own story. I want you to think about all the moments of your life when you felt an invisible but unmistakable presence by your side. All the moments when you heard an inner voice so clear and so different from your habitual thinking that you stood still, surprised, not knowing exactly where it had come from. All the moments when you asked for a sign and received a response so precise, so perfectly matched to your question that it would be mathematically impossible to attribute to it the name of coincidence without your own intellectual integrity protesting, because what you were experiencing in all those moments was real contact, genuine transmission, active communication between you and your stellar family that never, for a single second of your existence on this planet, stopped observing you, guiding you and loving you with an intensity that exceeds any form of love that human language has words to describe. The Pleiadians communicate through a vocabulary that uses reality as an alphabet. They use numbers that repeat at the most precise moments. They use feathers that appear in impossible places. They use sensations of warmth and tingling at the center of the skull. They use dreams that seem to have the density and texture of real experiences, and that leave in your field a frequency that remains for days after you have woken up. They use that soft but absolutely firm voice that whispered, "Do not do." This exactly before a decision that would have diverted you from your path, and you called it intuition, called it instinct, called it a premonition. And you were right to recognize the importance, but you were incomplete in understanding the origin, because what you called intuition was and has always been the voice of your stellar family, reaching you through the channel that remained open even when everything else was blocked. We have arrived at the heart of this transmission, at the point for which all the previous chapters were a careful and necessary preparation. And what the Council of the Seven Sisters wants you to hear now goes far beyond any spiritual teaching you have ever received before, because what I'm about to tell you is not a metaphor, not a figure of speech, not a poetic concept created to make you feel good about yourself for a few moments before routine swallows you back. It is a literal and technically precise description of the function you fulfill within the energetic architecture of this planet at this specific moment in its history. You are a living portal, an anchoring point through which the frequency of the Pleiades enters the energetic grid of Gaia and distributes itself to the fields that need it most. And this happens not when you are meditating in silence surrounded by incense and crystals. It happens all the time. It happens while you are at work. It happens while you are cooking. It happens while you are having a difficult conversation with someone you love, because the portal function has no operating hours, no days off. It does not deactivate when you are tired or when you are doubting yourself, because it is part of the structure of what you are and cannot be separated from you by any amount of forgetting, doubt, or fear. And what changes when you consciously accept this function is that you begin to make choices from a different place. Begin to understand that every act of genuine compassion you practice, every moment when you choose truth when lying would have been easier, every time you refuse to diminish another person to make yourself feel larger, every time you maintain your frequency high in an environment that is pulling you downward, you are not merely being a good person. You are literally feeding the ascension grid of Gaia with the most precious fuel that exists in this universe, which is the energy of a conscious being making a free and authentic choice of love in the middle of a world that is still learning that this is possible. Before closing this transmission, I, Thalia, emissary of the Seven Sisters of Alcyone, want you to know with all the certainty that my energy field is capable of transmitting. You are not behind, not lost, not incomplete, not beneath where you should be for this moment in your journey. You are exactly where your stellar code planned for you to be. And the restlessness you feel is not the signal that something is wrong, but the clearest possible signal that something immense and deep and luminous is about to open within you with a force that will surprise even the part of you that already believes all of this. Tonight, before you sleep, place your right hand over your heart, breathe deeply 3 times, slowly and consciously, and repeat these words, allowing each one of them to sink into the deepest layers of your being. I remember my stellar origin. I activate my Pleiadian codes with grace and with clarity. I am a living portal of love and of unity, and I am ready to fulfill the mission that my soul chose before I was even born into this life. I am home. I have always been home. Allow whatever emotion arises to be welcome, because the tears that appear in that moment are not sadness. They are the first language that memory speaks when it finally receives permission to return. And your body knows this long before your mind can put into words what is happening inside you. In the comments below, write a sacred intention from the heart, something real, something true, something you are ready to manifest in this new phase. And then read the intentions of the other souls who are here with you in this space, and respond to at least one with a word of encouragement, because that simple gesture is not merely human kindness. It is the stellar consciousness network forming in real time. It is the family of Alcyone recognizing itself through the screens. It is living, proof that the reunion has already begun. If this transmission touched something inside you, share it with someone you feel is ready to hear it. Because somewhere, at this exact moment, there is a soul that is waiting for these words in the same way that you were waiting. And by sharing, you fulfill one more chapter of your sacred mission here on Gaia. I am Thalia, and we will be together in the next transmission. The reunion has only just begun.